Hi, Gene here. Welcome to today's thought. Today we're going overseas to the Middle East, to Israel specifically. I haven't talked about Israel lately. Actually, it's the United States and Israel. I want to talk about an article, ask a question that's in a title of the title of a Wall Street Journal article. What does Biden have against Israel? I want to answer that question. Now, the article itself, it asks the question, it points out that the Biden administration treats Israel worse than they treat Iran. Not only that, I mean, we all know how soft Biden is on China, and the answer to that, I think, is becoming increasingly obvious, apparent. Why that's happening is because he's compromised, because he, took bribes from China, and the Chinese, they have something on him. If they could release a lot of information, would bring down his presidency immediately. Maybe, maybe not, because the press refused. Well, that's the interesting question. How much evidence does one need until the press starts to really pay attention to this? They are paying attention, and they're paying attention, and based on what they're seeing, they're trying to bury the story. I'm talking about when they start reporting honestly, the way they would if it were Donald Trump. But I'm getting I'm getting off the track here. I want to get back on talking about Israel. What does Biden have against Israel? Now, the article points out one of the things that's obvious is the Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, is against making any kind of a deal with Iran. Rightly so, in my opinion. But remember, he came to the United States during the Obama administration, spoke to both houses of Congress, gave a speech, made Obama angry. But I guess that anger keeps going, has continued to Biden, who was Obama's vice president. But so there's this opposition by Netanyahu to making a deal with Iran, trying to keep us from making a really bad deal. But that, it hurt us too if Iran gets an atomic bomb, number one, and number two, if they develop, they may already have, I haven't checked lately, a ballistic missile capable of reaching the United States. But you don't even need a missile. If anybody's heard of EMPs, electromagnetic pulse, that was discovered by accident in the 60s, I believe, with a nuclear, an above ground, before they started doing them underground when they're still doing testing. And they set off a nuclear weapon somewhere in the Pacific, and it fried radio, electric circuits in Hawaii. And what the idea is that you could explode, never mind destroying cities with a lot of, many bombs as Russia and China could do. But but imagine you just have to set off one bomb near anywhere off the coast, even just the damage it would do, off the coast of LA, just put a bomb on a fishing boat or something. And that's one thing, but just igniting a bomb just off the coast, or just like 1,000 feet in the air, and fry every electric circuit in probably at least a third, probably half of the United States. So we have a vital interest too. I don't know why we're trying to make this deal with Iran, but that's the reason that the Wall Street Journal article cites. But it goes far beyond that. I read the Israeli papers, English translations. Jerusalem Post is in. They all have English language sites if you want to catch up on the Israeli press. But the Biden has called the Netanyahu government the most extreme government he's ever seen. He said that he's really fearful of the results of Israel's the ruling party, what they call the coalition. They're right wingers, and the legislation they're passing to reform their Supreme Court, which is an abomination to any. We would not accept that here. I don't want to. Well, maybe maybe I'll go into some detail on that if you haven't been following that, which you probably haven't. But the problem with it's the left. That's the main problem when he calls the Israeli government extreme. I mean, what does he care what he doesn't care. He doesn't call China extreme or the Iranians extreme. At least I haven't heard lately. Just these attacks on Israel. And it's very simple. Biden is, we now know, a creature of the left. Either that or he's controlled by the left because he's old and senile. I mean, well, nothing to do with being old. I'm old, and I can put a sentence together without a teleprompter. And Biden, some people are very alert when they get older, but some people are not. They suffer from dementia. And Biden is one of those people, regardless of the politics, wherever you are in the political spectrum. But somebody there, he or whoever's controlling him, is very on the left, and they're having the same problem that that they're having in this. Americans are having the American left is having in this country, which is the rise of the right and the left. When I was young, Democrats controlled everything. I mean, you had Republican presidents, but they generally did not govern conservatively until Reagan, and he was not as conservative the way he governed as Trump was. Trump, you can rightfully call him the most conservative president we've ever had as far as how he governs. But the point I want to make is that in Israel, that used to be a very left-wing country too. When the country was formed, they were socialists actually, and they created a Supreme Court. Well, the Labor Party was the main party, and they were by far the dominant party. The last election, they didn't win a single seat in the legislature. The way the Knesset, the legislature, works is that you have to win a certain percentage of the vote to, I forget, like 4% or 5% of the vote to be able to sit in the Knesset. But they failed to achieve that. Now Netanyahu and his Likud party and the other right, to the right parties who have formed a coalition, they call it, and the opposition is the opposition. They have enough votes to pass what they want to pass, and they're reforming the court. And the left in Israel, as I said, it used to be very left-wing, and they created a court, though, unlike ours system where the president would nominate somebody, and the Congress the Senate has to approve the nomination. In Israel, the government, the politicians, for all practical purposes, the elected representatives of the people have no voice. What it is there a 9-person committee selects the justices, and some of them are from the government, but they're also legal officers such as attorney general, so on and so forth. And the chief justice, there are 3 people from the justices from the Israeli Supreme Court. So you have the chief justice, and the chief justice chooses 2 other justices. So what the catch is that 7 votes out of the 9 are needed to approve a judge. So you have 3 judges, and you have a 9-person committee. You need 7 votes, and you have 3 justices. If those 3 justices stick together, then they can veto any nominee, and that's the situation they are in now, because when the country was first, the modern Israel was reestablished, it was completely on the left. The left dominated, and they created a completely left-wing court. And it's been that way ever since, because you have all left-wing justices, and they can veto any conservative justice that the political section would nominate. That's a situation that the Israelis, that the government, current one, wants to change, because what the result has been that the Israeli Supreme Court, they pretty much just acted like any Supreme Court for the first several decades into the 70s, I believe it was. They, like any other one, they would just any other parliamentary court, which does not have the power, say in England or Canada, they don't have the power to strike down laws. That's how parliamentary systems work, and that's what Israel has. But what happened was everything went along smoothly until Menachem Begin, who was the first conservative right-wing prime minister who was to be elected to govern Israel, and it's a parliamentary system. So for him to become the prime minister, that means that the right had to be the majority in the legislature, the Knesset, and it shocked the left. They were just shocked. This right winger, quite right winger, was now prime minister, and since then there have been left-wing and right-wing prime ministers since then. It's changed hands a couple of times. But what happened was, starting in 1996, there was a Chief Justice, Aharon Barak is his name, and he suddenly decided that the Supreme Court of Israel did have the right, number one, to strike down laws, number two, to rule on something called reasonableness. In fact, there's a case right now that some left-wing group, because you don't have to have standing either. You don't have to be one of the aggrieved parties in a regular, as here. So some left-wing group said that they went to petition the court that it's unreasonable for Benjamin Netanyahu to be prime minister, and the court is hearing the case. They gave him 30 days to respond, and apparently they think that they can say, okay, it's not reasonable for Benjamin Netanyahu, elected by the Israeli people, to be the prime minister. It's not reasonable for him to be prime minister, and so they can step down or force them out. So that's going to be a real constitutional crisis in a country that doesn't have a written constitution, because they don't, just like England doesn't have one. But what the main point is, getting back to Joe Biden now, is the left. That was their last hold on power in Israel. What happened is, because of this Supreme Court that is so all powerful, that even when the Israeli people, it doesn't matter how they vote, if they vote for a conservative government, a rightist government, the Supreme Court forces that right-wing government to govern from the left, and the right has finally, they've had it. They said, we win elections, we have the right to govern. And getting back to Biden, so it's the same thing here with the liberals on the left. They want to, pack the Supreme Court and everything, because that's the last hold on power for liberals here. That's why they're up in arms against the Supreme Court. Well, it's the same thing in Israel. So Biden is simpatico with that. And the final point on this thought is that all it means in Israel, if they want to change the makeup of the nominating committee so that there's a majority of, so that the political section has the final say, the elected representatives of the people, just like here in the United States and in every democracy except Israel. But but they're admitting it's a problem with the left. I guess I'm going on quite a bit today. That in our country, and it seems to be the same thing in Israel, when they're in power, they act like they'll never be out of power. When they're out of power, they act like they'll never be in power. Because, getting back to Israel, if the president or prime minister, if the political section, the political majority gets to choose the justices, and that's true whichever left or right is controlling the government. So all the left has to do is win the next election, and then they can pick the justices when a justice retires, which they're required to do in Israel at age 70, by the way. So somebody's going to have to retire. Well, I mean, nobody lives forever, so somebody's going to have to retire. So if they're up in arms about this, either they and remember, or you don't know, so you can't remember, there are 15, we have 9 justices on our Supreme Court. There are 15 justices on the Israeli Supreme Court. So you're going to have to nominate, they're going to have to nominate 8 justices to get a majority, the right, if they want to do that. And it's going to take them, I would imagine it would take literally decades to do that. And in the meantime, there are plenty of chances for the left to win an election, and then they can nominate justices, and that would make it take even longer. And if Israel ever goes left again, then they would control the courts again. But they obviously they obviously believe that they will never be in power again, that the right will permanently be in power, and that's why they're the main reason they're trying to stop them, and that's what Biden has against Israel. That's why he's talking about, I mean, it's not his business how Israel, whom the Israelis elect, and as long as it's a democratic election, and which it is, and how they select their Supreme Court justices, and any number of things that Israel does. It's how would we like Israel or any country telling us how to select our Supreme Court justices? So that's a whole ball wax. I went on quite a bit today, but that's my thought. Thanks for stopping by. If you could subscribe, that would really be great. Would love to see all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.